Sometimes the hardest battles are the ones we fight alone. She built her dream from nothing.
In a city where success and failure dance in the shadows, two hearts separated by time face their greatest battles. When one's empire meets the collapse of the other, destiny opens an unexpected door. Amidst the ruins of dreams and walls of pride, a connection is reborn that goes far beyond shared memories. Hello, it's great to see you here. I'm Linda, and this is Linda's Grand Narratives. I hope you enjoy this story. In the heart of the city, in a Victorian-style mansion, Evan Harris built a tech empire now worth millions. At 42, with brown hair speckled with gray and piercing green eyes, he personified success. His office at the top of the Harris Tech building was a testament to his power. Glass, steel, and a panoramic view that left visitors breathless. That autumn afternoon, while reviewing the latest financial reports, Evan felt that familiar pang of emptiness. Despite his success, something was missing. He rarely admitted, even to himself, that this feeling started exactly a year ago, when his 12-year marriage came to an end. On the other side of the city, in a modest apartment, Grace Harris, no, Grace Coleman now, woke up before the alarm. The 40-year-old woman, with wavy blonde hair and honey-colored eyes, sat on the edge of the bed for a moment, gathering strength for another day. Her delicate hands, now marked by hard work, passed over her face as she took a deep breath. Grace was always known for her determination. The daughter of immigrants, she graduated in psychology and nutrition with a scholarship, working 3 jobs simultaneously. It was during her postgraduate studies that she met Evan, then a young programmer with big dreams. The sparkle in his eyes won her over immediately. For years, they grew together. He founded Harris Tech, and she established her clinic, Rebirth, a space dedicated not only to nutrition, but to rebuilding women's self-esteem. Mom, the sleepy voice of Sophie, her 10-year-old daughter, interrupted her thoughts. With a smile, Grace brushed the worries aside. Good morning, my love. Shall we wake up your brother? Noah, 7 years old, was still sleeping deeply, cuddled up with the stuffed dinosaur that Evan had given him on his last birthday. Grace felt a lump in her throat. The children were the bridge that still connected them. Bi-weekly visits that always left a bittersweet taste. After dropping the kids off at school, Grace drove to her clinic, or what was left of it. The 3-story building, painted in soft shades of green and blue, stood on a tree-lined street. Inside, it used to be a sanctuary of renewal, with cozy rooms, modern equipment, and a dedicated team. Now, isolation tape crossed the main entrance, and a temporarily closed sign hung crookedly on the door. As she entered, the smell of broken wood and twisted metal greeted her. 3 nights ago, thieves had broken into the place, stealing computers, medical equipment, and even the furniture from the consultation rooms. Insurance would cover only a minimal part of the losses, and debts were already piling up even before this disaster. Grace, the voice of Marta, her assistant and friend of almost a decade, echoed in the empty space. I brought coffee. Grace accepted the steaming cup gratefully. I just spoke with the bank. They denied the loan. There was that potential partnership with Central Hospital, Marta suggested hesitantly. They counseled after hearing about the theft. Grace took a sip of the coffee, feeling the bitterness slide down her throat. They think we're a risk now. Silence weighed between them. The Rebirth Clinic had become much more than a business. It was a refuge for women rebuilding their lives after divorces, illnesses, losses. Grace had created innovative methods that combined nutrition with therapy, helping hundreds of women rediscover their worth beyond physical appearance. I have a meeting with the property owner this afternoon, Grace said, trying to maintain her composure. I'm going to ask for more time on the rent. When Marta left, Grace allowed herself a moment of vulnerability. Silent tears ran down her face as she walked through the wreckage of her dream. In the main room, a wall still displayed dozens of photographs of smiling women. Her patience, her victories. Some had come from devastating situations. Cancer, domestic violence, deep depression. All had found a new version of themselves there. I'm sorry, she whispered to the images, as if they could hear her. On the way to the meeting with the owner, Grace passed by the imposing Harris Tech building. It wasn't the first time she'd considered that option, but she always dismissed it. Pride, perhaps, or fear of confirming that she had failed while Evan thrived. Their marriage didn't end with screams or accusations. It gradually unraveled, like fabric worn by time. After Noah's birth, Grace faced severe postpartum depression. Evan, pressured by the company's international expansion, was physically present but emotionally distant. They both made the mistake of believing that love would survive without cultivation. The meeting with the owner was brief and devastating. Without payment in 2 weeks, the clinic would be evicted. Grace left the office feeling numb, driving aimlessly through the city as the sunset painted the sky orange and purple. Before she knew it, she was parked in front of Harris Tech again. "I can't do this," she murmured to herself, gripping the steering wheel so tightly that her knuckles turned white. But then she thought of Maria, who weighed 40 kilos. When she arrived at the clinic, after losing her husband to cancer, of Joanna, who regained her self-esteem after years of an abusive relationship, of dozens of other women who relied on that space as an anchor during their personal storms. It wasn't for her. It was for them. On the 30th floor of Harris Tech, Evan was concluding a video conference with international investors. The new mental health app developed by the company was garnering global attention. Ironically, a project inspired by the conversations he used to have with Grace about the impact of technology on human well-being. "Mr. Harris," his secretary interrupted, "your schedule is clear for today. Do you need anything else?" "No, Margaret, you can go. I'm just going to review a few documents before leaving." Alone, Evan allowed himself to relax. He unbuttoned his collar and swiveled in his chair to contemplate the city lighting up under the night sky. The empty apartment awaited him, spacious, impeccably decorated, and utterly lifeless. On weekends with the kids, the place burst with color and noise. On other days, the silence was deafening. His phone vibrated. It was a message from Thomas, his younger brother, reminding him of his mother's birthday this weekend. Evan smiled slightly. His family had been a crucial support during the divorce, although his mother still maintained a discreet friendship with Grace, an arrangement that initially irritated him, but which he now understood. After all, Grace had been part of the family for over a decade. He occasionally wondered how she was doing. The conversations during the children's exchanges were cordial, but superficial. Noah recently mentioned that they were in a new apartment, smaller, but nice. Sophie commented that her mother was working a lot, more than before. Small clues that Evan tried not to gathering his belongings, he prepared to leave. In the elevator, he checked the messages on his phone. One from Sophie, asking about the next weekend's schedule. Another from his lawyer, about a new company acquisition. The elevator reached the ground floor, and Evan walked through the luxurious lobby, nodding to the night security guard. When the automatic doors opened to the cold night, he saw a female figure standing by the entrance. His heart skipped a beat. Grace was there, hugging herself against the cold wind. Even from a distance, he would recognize that posture anywhere. For a moment, he remained still, unsure if she had noticed him. He briefly considered going back inside, taking another elevator, avoiding the encounter. But then their eyes met, and that familiar connection, despite all the time and distance, instantly resurfaced. He walked towards her, noticing the subtle changes: shorter hair, a thinner face, less elegant clothes than she used to wear, but the eyes. The same eyes that had captivated him so many years ago. "Grace," he said simply, as he approached. "Evan," she replied, her voice betraying nervousness. "Sorry for showing up like this without warning." An uncomfortable silence hung between them. People hurried around, eager to get home, unaware of the little drama unfolding on the sidewalk. "Are the kids all right?" he asked, the immediate concern of a father. "Yes, they're fine. They're with my mother today." Grace took a deep breath, clearly gathering courage. "Evan, I need to talk to you. It's important." Something in the vulnerability of her voice touched him. It wasn't the controlled tone she had used during the divorce hearings, nor the polite cordiality of the custody exchanges. It was something deeper, more authentic. "Let's go inside," he offered, indicating the building's lobby. "It's cold out here." Grace hesitated, and for a moment he thought she would refuse. Finally, she nodded and followed him inside. In the mezzanine of the building, there was a small cafe, almost empty at that hour. They chose a table away from others, where privacy was possible. A sleepy waiter took their orders. A black coffee for him, a chamomile tea for her. Evan noticed that she still remembered his habits. "You look," he began, but stopped, unsure of what to say. "Tired," she completed, with a fragile smile. "I am. But that's not why I came." She paused, gathering her thoughts. My clinic was robbed 3 nights ago. They took everything. Equipment, computers, even the furniture. Insurance covers a minimal part. And I was already in a precarious situation before that. She stopped, clearly uncomfortable. Well, starting over alone was more difficult than I imagined. Evan felt a twinge of guilt. In the division of assets, he was more than fair financially. But he never really considered the practical challenges she would face alone. What do you need? He asked directly. Grace took a deep breath, as if she were about to dive into icy waters. I'm not here to ask for myself, Evan, she said, her voice choked yet firm. I'm here to ask for all the women who believed that if I could get back on my feet, they could too. Those words struck him like a bolt of lightning, leaving him momentarily speechless. I have 43 patients in active treatment, Grace continued. Women struggling with eating disorders, depression, trauma. Some are in such fragile situations that I fear what might happen if they lose this support now. She took a sip of tea. I get messages from them every day, asking when we will reopen. Grace, Evan began, but she raised her hand. I know we have a complicated past, and I swear I've tried every alternative before coming to you. Banks, investors. I even sold my car. Her eyes met his, direct and honest. I'm here because those women matter more than my pride. Something changed in the atmosphere between them. It was no longer a meeting between ex-spouses laden with unresolved history, but a conversation between two people who, despite everything, shared fundamental values. Tell me about them, Evan asked softly. Your patients. Grace's face lit up, her passion for her work momentarily overcoming her fatigue. There's Carolina, 19 years old, who lost 30 kilos in 2 months after a traumatic breakup. They brought her in almost unconscious. Grace smiled slightly. Last week, she ate a whole sandwich without crying afterward. It seems small, but for us, it was an enormous victory. For almost an hour, Grace talked about her patients, stories of struggle, overcoming, and daily little miracles. Evan listened attentively, asking occasional questions, genuinely interested. He was surprised by the depth of her work, far beyond what he imagined when they were married. You really found your purpose, he commented when she finally paused. Just like you, she replied, indicating the building around them. I always knew you would go far. A comfortable silence settled between them, different from the initial tension. How much do you need? Evan finally asked. Grace hesitated. I don't want charity. Evan, I'm proposing a partnership. She straightened her shoulders. Your new mental health app could be tested with my patients. Real data, measurable results, professional follow-up. In return, investment to rebuild the clinic. Evan observed her with renewed admiration. Even vulnerable, she maintained her dignity and strategic vision. That makes a lot of sense, he admitted. We're actually looking for groups for controlled tests. I know that. She smiled. I read about the project in the newspaper. He laughed, recognizing her as always 2 steps ahead, aren't you? I learn from the best, Grace replied, and for a moment, the weight of the past seemed lighter between them. Evan extended his hand. We have a deal then. I'll ask my team to prepare the documents tomorrow. Grace accepted the handshake, and the brief physical contact after so much time brought a wave of memories to both. Thank you, she said simply. As they left the cafe, the night sky had cleared, revealing a blanket of stars above the city. They walked side by side to the parking lot, discussing practical details of the deal and, inevitably, about the children. Sophie is writing a book, Grace commented, about a family of dragons that lives in 2 different castles. Evan smiled. Noah told me. Apparently, the dragons visit each other on the weekends. Arriving at her car, a compact rental model, very different from the sleek SUV she used to drive, both paused, suddenly aware that something had changed that night. You know, Evan said, looking at the stars. I've always wondered what it would have been like if we had talked more. Really talked. Grace followed his gaze to the sky. Me too. Maybe it's not too late, he suggested cautiously. Not to go back, but to move forward in a better way. Her smile was like the sunrise. Hesitant at first, then gradually brighter. I would really like that, she replied softly. As Grace drove home that night, she felt a weight being lifted from her shoulders. The road ahead would still be challenging, but for the first time in a long time, she was not alone on the journey. And in the penthouse of his apartment, Evan contemplated the city. thinking not about the empire he had built, but about the bridges he had burned, and those he might now be able to rebuild. True strength, he realized, was not in winning every battle alone, but in having the courage to reach out when pride insists on keeping you withdrawn. Thank you so much for watching until the end. I hope you were moved by this story. Be sure to check out the next one, which is playing now. See you next time. Goodbye.